You were told to work hard, to be honest, to play fair. But while you focus on moving your pieces with honor, others are not playing your game. They are redesigning the board itself. This is not about playing better, it's about awakening to the true nature of the game. A lesson taught by the man who became the game, John D. Rockefeller. His first rule was simple: fair play is a trap. They have constructed for you a comforting illusion called meritocracy. It is the belief that success is a direct result of talent and effort within a predefined set of rules. This narrative is essential for social stability, as it convinces billions to compete earnestly for prizes they have little chance of winning. It frames the system as just, and therefore any personal failure as a personal deficiency. It is the most elegant form of control, for it makes the prisoner believe he is the master of his own cell, when in fact he is merely choosing the color of its walls. Your mind craves this illusion of fairness because the alternative is terrifying. To accept that the game is rigged is to accept that your hard work might mean nothing, that your virtues could be liabilities. This cognitive dissonance is painful, so you retreat to the comfort of the established rules. You need to believe that the universe is orderly and that your good deeds will be rewarded. This very human need for a just world is the primary vulnerability that is exploited by those who operate outside of its moral confines. They depend on your faith in the system. You must therefore understand the distinction between two separate games being played simultaneously. Game A is the one you see, the game of products, services, and competition according to the rules. Game B is the invisible one, the metagame of influencing the rules, the referees, and the very structure of the board itself. The masses are consumed with playing Game A to the best of their ability. The true masters, however, dedicate their entire existence to manipulating the variables of Game B, making their victory in Game A an inevitable formality. John D. Rockefeller was perhaps the purest player of Game B in modern history. He looked at the burgeoning oil industry, a chaotic landscape of thousands of hopeful entrepreneurs competing fiercely, and he did not see opportunity in the same way they did. He did not see a race to drill the most oil. He saw a fundamentally broken, inefficient, and disordered system. His goal was not to win the competition, it was to abolish it entirely by absorbing the system itself. This perception was the foundation of his empire. If you have ever felt a gnawing frustration, a sense that you are running as fast as you can but remaining in the same place, your intuition is not failing you. This feeling is not a symptom of your lack of effort, but a sign of your awakening. It is the realization that you are playing a game designed by others for their own benefit. Your feeling of being trapped is the first step towards seeing the bars of the cage. To dismantle it, you must first understand the mind of the man who perfected its architecture. The most common and fatal error of the ambitious is to fall in love with their creation. The baker loves his bread, the coder loves his application, the artist loves his painting. This is the mindset of the craftsman. Rockefeller was not a craftsman, he was an architect. He understood that passion for the product creates a blind spot. Your focus narrows to perfecting the thing you make, while you ignore the larger system in which your thing must exist, compete, and be distributed. This is a tactical blunder of the highest order. He never harbored a romantic obsession with crude oil itself. He saw it for what it was, a messy, volatile commodity. His true obsession was with logistics. He knew that the oil in the ground was worthless until it could be refined and delivered to a customer. The true power, the choke point of the entire industry, lay not with the drillers but with the means of transportation, the railroads. The man who controlled the movement of the product controlled every producer who depended on that movement for their survival. His infamous rebate system was a masterpiece of strategic cruelty disguised as business acumen. It was not merely a discount for his high volume. He negotiated a deal where he not only paid less to ship his own oil, but also received a kickback, a payment, on every single barrel his competitors shipped. This move made his own transportation costs negligible while simultaneously raising the costs for everyone else. He was being paid by the railroads to systematically bankrupt his rivals. This is not playing the game. This is owning the referee. The profound psychological lesson here is to stop focusing on the players and start analyzing the field. Do not compete on the established terms. Alter the terms of competition itself. Instead of building a faster horse, gain control of all the roads, and then you may charge whatever toll you wish. The environment in which a contest takes place is infinitely more powerful than the strength of the individual contestants. Mold the environment, and you predetermine the outcome long before the race even begins. In the modern world, these railroads take different forms. They are the digital platforms, the operating systems, the social media algorithms, the financial networks, and the logistics chains. Amateurs compete for attention within these systems. Masters seek to own a piece of the system itself. They do not simply create content. They build the platform that hosts the content. They do not just design an app. They control the app store where it is sold. You must ask yourself relentlessly, where is the railroad in my industry? True power is rarely found in the product that flows through the system. It is found in owning the pipes. The water may change, the demand may fluctuate, but the one who owns the infrastructure through which everything must pass remains indispensable. This is the second great secret. Shift your obsession from the transient product to the permanent system. Control the arteries, and you have absolute dominion over the entire body of the industry, regardless of who believes they are its heart. Rockefeller's notoriously quiet and reserved demeanor was not a personality quirk, it was a weapon. In a world of loud boasts and public posturing, he understood that silence is an information vacuum. Human nature abhors a vacuum, and your opponents will rush to fill your silence with their own assumptions, their own fears, and, most importantly, their own strategic information. By saying nothing, you invite them to reveal everything. Silence is not passive. It is an active and aggressive tool of intelligence gathering. The single greatest advantage in any conflict or negotiation is information asymmetry. He dedicated immense resources to knowing everything about his competitors, their costs, their debts, their supply chains, their personal weaknesses, while ensuring they knew almost nothing concrete about his own operations. He moved like a submarine in the deep, aware of every ship on the surface, while they could only guess at his position and intent. This disparity in knowledge made their every move predictable and his own actions devastatingly effective. His meticulous ledger books, famous for their detail, were not merely instruments of accounting, they were weapons of war. By tracking every minute cost, he gained an almost supernatural understanding of the economics of the entire oil industry. When he approached a rival with an offer to buy them out, he knew their financial breaking point with more certainty than they did themselves. His offers were not guesses. They were surgical strikes calculated to be the precise amount that was too painful to refuse. In any negotiation, the party that displays the most need is the one that loses leverage. Rockefeller cultivated an aura of immense, unshakable calm. He mastered the power of the extended pause. In moments of tense discussion, he would remain silent for minutes at a time, allowing the pressure to build until his counterpart, unnerved and desperate to break the tension, would start making concessions without even being asked. He weaponized their discomfort, turning their own impatience against them. Think of business as a battlefield shrouded in the fog of war. Most participants stumble through this fog, reacting to immediate threats with limited information. Rockefeller's obsession with data and his disciplined silence allowed him to dissipate the fog for himself while thickening it for everyone else. He operated from a high ground of total clarity, observing the panicked movements of his rivals below and choosing the perfect moment to strike with overwhelming force. His victories often seemed easy because the real battle was won long before, in the silent acquisition of knowledge. The practical lesson is to conduct a ruthless audit of your own information flows. Where are you speaking when you should be listening? What valuable data are you giving away for free in casual conversation or social media posts? What do your competitors know about you, and what do you truly know about them? You must learn to value your own silence. Treat information not as a commodity to be shared, but as a strategic asset to be hoarded, analyzed, and deployed with precision. It is not enough to be powerful. Others must perceive your power as an inevitable force of nature. Rockefeller did not just acquire companies, he orchestrated a narrative of inevitability that made resistance seem futile and irrational. He understood that the psychological battle was as important as the economic one. You must not merely defeat your opponent. You must convince them that their defeat was a foregone conclusion from the very beginning. This shatters their will to fight future battles. When the Standard Oil Trust approached a smaller refinery, the offer was not presented as a simple business transaction. It was framed as an invitation to join the future. They would arrive with a meticulously prepared case, showing the rival their own inefficiencies and demonstrating with cold, hard numbers how the tide of consolidation and efficiency was unstoppable. The choice was presented clearly: accept our fair offer and receive shares in this inevitable future, or be crushed under the wheels of progress. He masterfully used logic as a psychological weapon. By appealing to his rivals' sense of reason, he disarmed their emotional desire to fight. He made them complicit in their own demise by convincing them it was the only logical course of action. It was not a hostile takeover in their minds. It was a rational surrender to a superior system. This allowed him to absorb dozens of companies with minimal resistance, as men rarely fight with vigor for a cause they have been convinced is already lost. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. By acting with the supreme confidence that your dominion is inevitable, you project an aura of power that begins to bend reality to your will. Others start to believe it. They hesitate to challenge you. They begin to see aligning with you as their best option. Your belief in your own destiny, when backed by relentless execution, becomes a gravitational force that pulls the entire industry into your orbit. People want to be on the side of a winner. The primary tool here was not fear, but exhaustion. He could sustain pressure, legal battles, and price wars far longer than any of his rivals. He played a game with an infinite time horizon, while they were focused on surviving the next quarter. He would systematically exhaust their resources, their energy, and, most importantly, their hope. His final offer was not made to a proud warrior, but to a tired man who simply wanted the bleeding to stop. This is the alchemy of victory. turning a competitor's will to fight into a desire for peace at any price. To apply this, you must construct and project a vision of the future so compelling and so well argued that others see more benefit in joining your cause than in opposing it. Your strategic plan must not be a secret. In some cases, it should be a declaration. Announce where the world is going and position yourself as the only logical vehicle to get there. Make aligning with you the most rational choice a person can make for their own self-interest. The seeming paradox of Rockefeller's life is his transformation from the most ruthless businessman in history to its greatest philanthropist. The public sees this as an act of repentance, a washing of hands stained by predatory capitalism. This is a naive interpretation. His philanthropy was not an apology for his life's work. It was the final and most brilliant strategic move of his career. It was the third act in his consolidation of power. Having conquered the economic sphere, he turned his attention to the cultural and social spheres. Wealth is transient and can be lost or taxed away. But influence over the institutions that shape society, medicine, education, science, and art is a far more permanent and subtle form of power. He did not simply give away money. He invested it in ways that would shape the minds and values of generations to come, long after his company was dismantled by the government. By funding the establishment of modern medical schools through the General Education Board, he was able to influence the curriculum, favoring pharmaceutical-based approaches over others, thereby creating a new market for products derived from his petroleum empire. By creating the University of Chicago, he helped shape the intellectual discourse of the nation. He was not just donating, he was investing in the foundational software of society itself. This is the ultimate power move, the ability to write your own history. When you fund the universities, the historians, and the institutions that become the arbiters of truth, you can ensure that future generations will remember you not as a predator, but as a benefactor. You can transform your legacy from one of conquest to one of charity. He did not buy forgiveness. He purchased the very mechanism by which historical judgment is formed. The psychological lesson is profound. Supreme power is not the ability to control the present, but the ability to control the narrative of the past and thereby direct the trajectory of the future. It is the power to define the terms of your own legacy. While his rivals were focused on their quarterly profits, he was playing a game measured in centuries, ensuring his name would be etched into the cornerstones of the very civilization he helped to build. This is the final stage of the game. Once you have accumulated sufficient resources, you must learn to transmute that material wealth, which is vulnerable, into institutional influence, which is permanent. Do not simply consume your winnings. Use them to build the cultural and intellectual platforms that will outlive you, ensuring that your vision and your values continue to shape the world long after you are gone. This is how you achieve a form of immortality. The public image of Rockefeller was that of a cold, emotionless machine. This was not an accident of birth. It was a cultivated and rigorously maintained discipline. He understood a fundamental truth. Emotion is a strategic liability. Ego, anger, jealousy, pride, and even uncontrolled enthusiasm are vulnerabilities that can be observed and exploited by a patient adversary. Your feelings are a data set that your enemy can use against you. He made it a core principle to remove himself from all business equations. Decisions were never personal. When he crushed a competitor, it was without malice. When he absorbed a rival, it was without triumph. He viewed the world of business not as a human drama, but as a complex engineering problem where the goal was to maximize efficiency and eliminate waste. Human emotions were simply inefficient variables that needed to be controlled or removed entirely. His decisions were always the result of a cold calculus of probability and long-term advantage. He was a master of second-order thinking. While others reacted to the immediate event, a market crash, a new competitor, he was already thinking 3, 4, or 5 moves ahead. He contemplated not just the direct consequences of an action, but the ripple effects those consequences would create, and the further consequences of those ripples. This depth of foresight is impossible when one's mind is clouded by emotion. The challenge this presents is immense, as we are all driven by our egos. We want to be right. We want to be respected. We want to vanquish those who have wronged us. These desires are the chains that bind you to conventional competition. Rockefeller's power came from his ability to sever those chains. He did not care about being liked. He did not care about personal victories. He cared only about the logical and efficient execution of his grand design. He treated his business empire like a general commanding an army from a distant tent. He was not on the front lines, caught in the heat of battle. He was observing the entire map, moving pieces with detached, impersonal precision. This emotional distance gave him the clarity to make difficult decisions that others, entangled in personal relationships and pride, would be unable to make. He could sacrifice a piece, even a valuable one, if it served the larger strategic objective. The ultimate test for you, then, is this. Can you separate your identity from your ambition? Can you make decisions based on pure strategic reality, even when they wound your pride or contradict your feelings? Can you view your own failures not as personal defeats but as data points to be analyzed for a better outcome next time? The man who can achieve this level of impersonal discipline becomes less a player in the game and more a force of nature within it. How does a devoutly religious man, a Baptist who tithed throughout his life, justify a career of such relentless and often brutal consolidation? The answer lies in his ability to create a powerful internal moral framework that defined his actions not as greedy, but as righteous. He did not see himself as a predator. He saw himself as an agent of God, bringing order to the chaos of a wasteful industry. In his mind, and in the Calvinist tradition that shaped him, wealth was not a sin. It was a visible sign of God's favor, a reward for diligence and righteous living. But this gift came with a profound responsibility, to steward it and grow it with maximum efficiency. Wasting this gift was the true sin. From this perspective, the chaos of the free market, with its endless duplication of effort and failed ventures, was an offense against God's law of order. Competition, in Rockefeller's worldview, was a form of sin. It was inefficient. It pitted brother against brother, wasted precious resources, and led to boom and bust cycles that harmed the community. His mission, as he saw it, was to replace this sinful chaos with a single, highly efficient, and divinely ordained system under his control. The Standard Oil Trust was not a monopoly to him. It was an act of stewardship, a way of imposing God's order on the affairs of men. This powerful internal narrative made him almost completely immune to public criticism. When newspapers called him a monster and politicians decried him as a tyrant, it had little effect. In his own mind, they were simply misguided souls who could not see the divine logic of his plan. He was not driven by the approval of others, but by the conviction of his own righteous purpose. This moral certainty was the armor that protected his psyche from the outrage of the world. Herein lies a dangerous and potent secret, a strong internal mythology. A personal religion that justifies your ambition is the psychological engine that allows an individual to withstand immense social pressure and pursue objectives that others deem impossible or immoral. Without such a framework, your will is likely to crumble under the weight of criticism and self-doubt. You must have a reason that transcends mere profit. So you must ask yourself, what is my religion? What is the unshakable principle that justifies my most difficult actions? Is it efficiency? Is it progress? Is it the creation of a legacy? Whatever it is, it must be something you believe in more than you fear the judgment of others. Without this internal compass that points resolutely toward your grand ambition, you will be swayed by the shifting winds of public opinion and will never achieve anything of true magnitude. In a world increasingly obsessed with speed, immediacy, and overnight success, Rockefeller's greatest strategic weapon was his mastery of patience. He operated on a timeline that was utterly alien to his competitors. He understood that the grandest designs require slow, deliberate execution. He was not a speculator chasing quick profits. He was a cultivator planting seeds that he knew might not bear fruit for a decade or more. His patience was not passive, it was predatory. He demonstrated this most clearly during economic panics and recessions. While others were frantically selling assets to cover their debts, gripped by fear and short-term thinking, Rockefeller was a calm and patient buyer. He saw crises not as disasters, but as magnificent opportunities. He would allow the market to collapse, for his competitors to weaken in despair, and then he would step in, using his vast cash reserves to purchase their prime assets for pennies on the dollar. This reveals a deep psychological insight into the nature of competition. Most individuals and organizations operate with a very short time horizon. They are driven by quarterly reports, immediate threats, and the need for constant validation. The person who can resist this impulse, who can absorb short-term pain for long-term gain, holds an almost insurmountable advantage. They are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, able to sacrifice pawns to capture kings later in the game. His patience was strategic. It was the active and disciplined restraint of power until the moment of maximum leverage. He would wait for years, gathering information, building his resources, and allowing his opponents to overextend themselves. He knew that a move made at the right time is 10 times more effective than the same move made at the wrong time. He let time itself do much of the heavy lifting, eroding his competitors' positions while strengthening his own. Time then becomes the ultimate battlefield. While you cannot create more of it, you can manipulate its effects. You can force your competitors into a fast-paced game they are unequipped to play, or you can drag them into a war of attrition that their resources cannot sustain. You must learn to make time your ally, a force that compounds your advantages while it works as a corrosive agent against your impatient adversaries. So, study the rhythms of your industry and of human nature. Learn to recognize the cycles of fear and greed. Cultivate the emotional fortitude to do nothing when everyone else is panicking and to act decisively when they are complacent. Master the long game. The predator does not chase every meal. It waits patiently for the perfect moment to strike, ensuring the kill with minimal expenditure of energy. This is the art of dominating time. The principles that built the Standard Oil empire are not relics of a bygone era. They are timeless laws of power that have simply changed their form. To think this is merely about oil or railroads is to miss the point entirely. It is about adopting the mindset of a system architect in a world where everyone else is content to be a user of the system. The game is the same, only the playing pieces have changed. The modern equivalent of controlling the railroads is controlling the platforms. It is owning the digital marketplace, the search algorithm, the social network, or the operating system. These are the new choke points of commerce and communication. Power no longer flows through physical pipes, but through fiber optic cables and networks of data. To control the flow of information is to control the modern economy. The Rockefeller strategy of information asymmetry is now more potent than ever. In his time, it required spies and meticulous ledgers. Today, it is achieved through the mastery of data analytics, machine learning, and an understanding of behavioral psychology. The companies that know more about their customers than their customers know about themselves are the new titans. They are not just selling products, they are predicting and shaping human desire itself. The art of philanthropy as a weapon has evolved into the science of personal branding and narrative control. Instead of funding universities, modern titans build media empires, host influential podcasts, and shape public discourse through the massive distribution of their ideas. They are not just building a legacy. They are actively programming the cultural conversation in real time, ensuring their worldview becomes the default. But this knowledge comes with a grave warning. This mindset is a tool, as neutral and as powerful as fire. It can be used to build empires that advance humanity, create order, and solve immense problems. It can also be used to crush innovation, stifle freedom, and entrench a new form of tyranny. The power to design the game carries with it the absolute moral responsibility for the consequences of that design. The choice remains yours. Ultimately, the great secret is not a secret at all. It is a truth that many are too uncomfortable to face. It is the realization that the game of money and power is not, and has never been, about playing fair. It is about understanding the deep structure of the system and having the courage, the discipline, and the relentless will to reshape that system according to your own design. The world is not a fixed stage. It is a raw material, waiting for an architect. You have reached the end of this transmission, which means the comfortable illusion of the fair game no longer satisfies you. The Rockefeller mindset does not offer peace, only a brutal clarity. It demands you exchange passive hope for the active responsibility of designing your own board. The question is no longer whether the game is fair, but whether you possess the courage to become a conscious player, fully aware of its true nature. If you are prepared to continue deconstructing the invisible architectures of power and psychology, subscribe and activate notifications, for there are many other games whose secret rules have yet to be revealed.